Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. Thank you for being with us on a beautiful fall, autumn-like Monday afternoon here in St. Louis. We are grateful that you're hanging out with us. A reminder, you can stream us on the Odyssey app, AUDACY, anywhere you go, crystal clear connection. Go download and find 97.1 FM Talk and the Annie Frey Show. Every day that we are watching Donald Trump continue to assemble his cabinet, his appointees, a huge congratulations to Will Scharf on his appointment to be the secretary. I should have had it written down. He's like the office. He's head of the office. He told me specifically that he will see all the documents that go into the president and come out from the president's office.
Yeah.
He oversees all of that. And he said that during George W. Bush's presidency, do you know who had that position? Brett Kavanaugh.
That's right.
Yeah.
I saw that this weekend.
Yeah. So it's really exciting for Will Scharf.
White House staff secretary.
Staff secretary.
It's that staff word I can never remember
Yeah.
either.
It's incredible for him. Well-deserved. I remember when he was running for attorney general, he would kind of tell us, like, the president would be like, you don't want to be attorney general of Missouri. You want to come work with me after I win. And he's like, I would really like to be the attorney general. And it didn't work out, but it worked out. And, we're very happy for Will Scharf. We'll be having him on the show again in due time to talk about everything that is taking place there. But watching these cabinet appointments come in, these staff, the advisor appointments, it's really exciting to see. Some of them are making me a little more anxious than others. And truth be told, and the Matt Gaetz one is the one that I'm just like still a little bug-eyed about. I'm not going to be sad if Matt Gaetz becomes the Attorney General of the United States. I think we need to make that clear. I'm going to be shocked.
You know why?
Which is different.
You won't be sad, though, because he's going to go through a rigorous process. And if he comes out of that and is still the Attorney General, you will say, okay.
And when you have a 53-seat majority in the Senate, you have the ability for some people to stand on their own principles or whatever it is that's pressuring them to vote no and still potentially get passed. You can lose 3 senators, 3, 2, 1. I guess you could lose, if you lose 3, then it's 50-50 or 50 whatever. And J.D. Vance gets to be the tie vote there. Ryan Schmelz is going to be with us in 15 minutes or so. He's Fox News Radio's Capitol Hill and White House correspondent. He's going to give us the latest on what's going on there on Capitol Hill with these appointments, how we're going to talk about recess appointments with him as well, which is something we've discussed. We talked about it with Hans von Spakovsky, but I think it's something that we need to continue to talk about just in practicality. We're going to talk about this a little bit later in the show, too. I think probably in the 2 o'clock hour. Brian Stelter, he got fired from CNN, and then somehow he crawled back in, and they were like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
He wrote an article for Reliable Sources, and he was talking about, like, what the media can learn from this election, and he was like, making suggestions. I think he still teaches, possibly, at one of those Ivy League schools. He was talking about adjustments that need to be made going forward with the media, because a lot of the media are gobsmacked about what took place. They can't believe it. And the reason they can't believe it is because they have been existing in an alternate reality than you and I have. They're not people who ever actually pay attention to the price tag on butter when they put it in their cart. They probably aren't ever the one putting the butter in their cart. They don't understand what it's like to deal with the economy the way it's been kicking our butts. They are plugged in enough to the system that they benefit from it more than they're hurt by it. And you and I don't have the ability to experience that. Well, one of the things that Brian Stelter said, which I actually thought that's something that we try to do here on the show, and I thought this is actually a good suggestion. But he was talking about when the media goes on and has experts on and is talking about, for example, tariffs and talking about why tariffs are good things and why tariffs would be bad things or whatever. He said the media needs to begin to first ask the question, what is a tariff? Which seems silly to some, but I really don't believe that most of the people who are running the show in the major media outlets understand. I'm 40 years old. We're all in our 40s. We were babies when Reagan was the president. So if you want to talk about the Cold War, we studied it. We do not know it or understand it from real world experience. And even to say that out loud is kind of, it feels like it diminishes me in like my ability to speak about things, because even at 40, I still feel kind of young in this industry. But there is so much incestuous type of discussion that comes out of news and media, commentators, experts, fellows, like all of these types of things, where you have to be really into the club to even understand the conversations that are taking place. And if that's the case, then it really makes more sense to me that younger people, and we can determine what younger people is, that younger people would be easily duped by what Donald Trump will do and what he won't do, when the people who are doing the speaking on how terrible and scary Donald Trump is aren't actually explaining things in ways that people understand. They're just taking everything for granted. That most people, you could go out and ask 100 people downtown St. Louis right now what a tariff is. Maybe 25% would be able to tell you what it is. Like, actually?
Maybe. Yeah, and there was a lot of consternation about that before the election from think tanks. There were a lot of people trying to get people scared of tariffs before the election because they were looking for anything they could find on the economy. And they were like, well, let's go with that. Trump talks about that.
And they pick it because less people know what it means.
Yeah, and we can explain this to you. We can explain this really well. And so it kind of percolates in liberal circles and these kind of academic worlds that nobody...
Even Donald Trump would say, when he was asked about it, that tariffs can be a very bad thing. That's why you use them in negotiation. You're not using... The tariff isn't the end of the policy. The tariff is the beginning of the policy. The tariff is the avenue that we're doing the same thing. Like, we're talking about tariffs right now without like an actual definition of them. Stephen Moore will be on with us at 1:00, and we will ask him specifically, because he'll go. This is what Steve Moore's going to do, and Steve Moore advises Donald Trump on economic policy, like direct line connection. So he's going to be the type of guy who you would expect to speak at this really high level because he's at the highest level of this conversation. But I will ask him, like, can you explain to us what a tariff is? He's going to say, well, Annie, I'm a free trade guy. He's going to say that. And I'm going to ask him the basic super, elementary questions, because that's the only way we can be more educated on what is actually happening. We have societally relied so much on our favorite personalities in the media to like like in the cartoons where the top half of your head just opens up on a hinge and then they put the information in and then it closes, and then you just go on your merry way. I feel like, good grief, it's impossible for me to be objective on this issue, but I feel like specifically liberals in this country, that's what they've been doing for so long. That it has just been, you know who your enemy is, and then everything else is just an avenue that day to hate him again today. Over and over and over.
Which is why this is such an interesting time, because you see things like, different media outlets saying, maybe we need, personalities say, maybe we need to reassess this. Maybe this is an actual moment where people are having that discussion behind enemy lines and saying, we just lost. Maybe a dialogue is good.
Well, thank you for that beautiful segue, Ryan Wiggins. Mika and Joe, and every time I see Mika, this is just my female response to seeing Mika. Every time I see her, she looks like she just put on a lot of makeup, so you can't tell she was crying.
Okay, I would never have picked that up.
Women specifically will know what I'm saying, but she just kind of has the look like she was sad.
Yeah, I could see that.
And this is really no different. But Mika and Joe went on MSNBC, of course, Morning Joe, to announce that they went to Mar-a-Lago to sit down with Donald Trump and have a conversation.
Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched.
I don't like his laugh there. When I was watching this the first time, it's such a fake laugh. It's an insert of levity to the situation because he knows that the people who are listening to him at that point are like, you did what? He's like, we disagreed on everything. Yeah, but you're at Mar-a-Lago. You went to meet, you went and broke bread or whatever it is with the mortal enemy that you've been telling us that the country would completely dissipate under his leadership, and now you're hanging out with him. He's like, we disagree on abortion. And Mika still looks like she's covered up or crying.
That over the past year or over the past decade that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and we told him so.
What we did agree on was to restart communications. My father often spoke with world leaders with whom he and the United States profoundly disagreed. That's a task shared by reporters and commentators alike. We had not spoken to President Trump since March of 2020, other than a personal call Joe made to Trump on the morning after the attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. In this meeting, President Trump was cheerful, he was upbeat, he seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we? 5 years of political warfare has deeply divided Washington and the country. We have been as clear as we know how in expressing our deep concerns about President Trump's actions and words in the coarsening of public debate. But for nearly 80 million Americans, election denialism, public trials, and January 6th were not as important as the issues that moved them to send Donald Trump back to the White House with their vote. Joe and I realize it's time to do something different, and that starts with not only talking about Donald Trump, but also talking with him.
Can you? What if you'd have done that before the election? What if you would have been willing to open up a dialogue with him before the election? You have not had a conversation with this man since 2020, and you were telling everybody that he was such a threat to democracy, that he was Nazi-esque, that he was Hitler-esque. You've been doing that for 4 years. You had an entire election cycle, and you never spoke to him. And after he wins, you're like, I guess we should chat. Now? This is a hostage situation. MSNBC has to have said to them, you can't continue doing what you're doing and stay on the air. You have to figure out how to make a sea change here.
It's also amazing to hear these people say, you know what, it's probably good to meet with your adversary. First of all, I can't believe that they're saying, well, he's our adversary, basically, is what they're openly saying. But also Mika saying, my dad, he was good at this. He would talk to foreign leaders and people that he disagreed with. Do you remember in 2018 when Trump met with Kim Jong-un? I just pulled up headlines. They did nothing but mock him for meeting with foreign leaders that they disagreed with. And now they're
meeting with
good idea.
With leaders they disagree with?
Yeah, exactly.
This is just the biggest confirmation post-election that I've had so far, that not only did Donald Trump win the election, he's won the culture.
That's a good point.
The YouTube live chat poll for today is simple. Is Donald Trump cool? Yes or no? If you paid any attention to football this weekend, I saw it in the other lamer version of football, soccer. I don't know who it was. Sorry, you're a soccer guy. I forgot.
No, it's okay. Football Europeo. That's what we call that one.
It was an English team. That was like across the world. Doing
the Trump dance.
Oh, I missed this.
Yes, you get the Trump dance going, and it's worldwide. Is Donald Trump cool? If Mika and Joe have made it this far, purely fueled on TDS that is insatiable by a portion of the electorate, not only is the electorate for what they're offering large enough in the Electoral College, they are legitimately in the minority now, as are their ratings, and their future cannot look too terribly bright under the circumstances of continuing to follow the status quo. This is a very interesting, to me, a huge indication that we culturally have determined on the whole that Donald Trump isn't who they said he was. That doesn't mean that everybody agrees on who he actually is. But people have rallied around Donald Trump, not just electorally, because when you're doing this at a English soccer game, they're probably getting their votes in Pennsylvania. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
When
takes a few extra days.
It does. Dates and stuff. Time change, time zones.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
International date line.
Yes. I mean, what even?
Prime meridian.
What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Longitude.
Right. Latitude, too.
Yeah.
It takes a few days. Or weeks.
Whatever it needs.
Whatever it needs.
Find me the votes, Ryan Wiggins. Just find me the votes.
Oh, careful.
No, I think this is how you do it.
Oh, okay.
Now. This is how you do it now.
Oh, gotcha.
I think that Mika and Joe do not. You would really think that after an election, this is where this type of pushback, this TDS pushback, they get to be the destination for people who oppose this administration. There is something to that. When Barack Obama won in 2008, and I was at the station in February of 2009. So I started like a week or two after Barack Obama was inaugurated. There was kind of a surge of people who came to 97.1 because it was a place to be, because you were in opposition politically to what the administration was, and you wanted to be among like-minded people, and you knew you could do that. This is an opportunity for people on MSNBC to go, hey, this is our moment. Fox News has been doing their Fox News thing this whole time. They're going to have their viewership, but now our people need a place to go. If Mika and Joe are on their morning show and they're talking about meeting with Donald Trump, something bigger than just a political defeat has happened here. It may last 48 hours. If Donald Trump is able to use this momentum for good, which I think he absolutely can, and I don't really see any indication at this point that he's going to step on his own opportunities here, I think it's huge, because I would much rather win the culture than a political campaign.